how Lafayette provides service for its residents, sets its priorities, and spends its funds has a big impact on everyday life. That's why the city's budget is a crucial part of how Lafayette runs. The budget determines services that are provided throughout the city and invested across the community. Here's a resident's guide to the budget process. In short, the budget balances the city's revenues, money coming in, versus expenses, where we spend it. But it's more than numbers. The budget is the foundation for governmental transparency and guidance. It helps the city implement its policy and priorities, like how to provide public programs and services with available public resources. The budget is a communications tool to help residents understand how the city intends to allocate its funds. A budget also helps lay out a financial plan by zeroing in on the cost of services. That requires evaluating those services to determine community value. And as an operations guide, the budget establishes the organizational structure as well as long and short-term priorities depending on the availability of funds. The budget process begins mid-year with the city administrator, department directors, and the finance department developing economic forecasts and project estimations. These factors are aligned with City Council's 10 strategic priorities, which include things like environmental leadership, excellent services and infrastructure, quality amenities, and building a safe, welcoming, and inclusive community. In September, a recommended budget is presented to City Council by the City Administrator. This process includes 2 reviews of the budget, each with the opportunity for public input before Council adoption. Here's a look at some of the specifics of the budget for Lafayette. Let's take a look at where the city gets its revenue. Major revenue sources for the city include sales and use taxes, property taxes, utility fees, and charges for service. A diversity of revenue is crucial to help weather economic uncertainty. So now let's look at how the city allocates those funds. Residential water service, like water delivery, reclamation, and treatment, coupled with the general fund, typically make up about 3/4 of the city's expenses. Each fund is like an individual business, which adds to the full-service functionality of the city. The general fund pays for things like streets, public safety, arts, library, and parks. The revenue from sales tax and property tax pay for much of those services. This highlights the importance of shopping locally and keeping your sales tax dollars in Lafayette. Here's a quick breakdown of how the general fund budget is spent. Public safety, including the police and fire departments, are about 1/3 of the operating expenses. Add in costs for parks, recreation, and open space, and that's about 1/2 of the general fund. All the other slices of the pie are smaller. They include expenses for public works, the library, arts, and planning. So back to the city's overall budget. Besides the general fund, a major portion of the city's expenses goes to support water services and infrastructure. That includes building a treatment plant to process wastewater, water reclamation and acquisition, paying for storage projects, and upkeep of our stormwater infrastructure. Funding capital projects like public use facilities is always a significant expense. The remainder of the city's revenue goes to expenses like the golf course and parks, open space and trails, and internal services. So there you have it, a broad overview of how your city services are funded and planned for. Creating, approving, and implementing the city's budget is an important responsibility that City Council and staff consider very critical. Much thought and consideration go into these efforts to present and maintain a balanced budget and ensure residents receive excellent service while managing expenses. You can review this year's recommended budget as well as the 2020 document at cityoflafayette.com/budget. Public comment will be taken on the recommended budget during the October 20th and November 2nd City Council meetings. City Council will vote to adopt the 2021 budget on Monday, November 2nd. To stay up to date on everything going on in the city, go to cityoflafayette.com and follow us on social media.